Friday the 6th of October. This is the Climate Alarm Clock. This week's headlines: more records fall as the hottest September ever is recorded, UK government backtracking on climate commitments, and the Irish Fiscal Council estimates the cost of climate action, but no benefits. Hello and welcome to the Climate Alarm Clock, your Irish climate news podcast. I'm Darragh Wynne and we are here for the second episode of our fifth season, and I'm delighted to be joined, as always, by Anna Pringle and Ciara Daly. How are you both doing?
I'm sick. Sick of climate change.
We're settling into October, Darragh, and looking back at September fondly.
That's very poetic.
I know,
Yeah. And we're back. We had a kind of early episode or a late episode for our first episode, but from here to the end of our season, which is going to be the middle of December, we're going to be around with episodes every 2 weeks. So we're back to our Friday slot and episodes every
Except
fortnight.
when we're not.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're going to have some special guests too, aren't we?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, which we'll be telling you more about maybe in our next episode, where we maybe have a special guest joining us.
Ooh, stay tuned.
But only if you support our Buy Me a Coffee. Otherwise, we're not telling you.
Ooh. You can't be bribing people like that.
And you'll have to guess who the podcast guest is.
We have more integrity than that, Ciara.
I don't.
And speaking of Buy Me a Coffee, we had a couple of nice comments on there after our last episode. So John says, thanks for bringing attention to climate. And Christine said, it's great to have a regular space which affirms what a crisis we're in and helps to reduce the feeling of isolation and madness.
Oh, I like that one.
Yeah. Thanks for both of those comments. And yeah, I really feel it helps me when I hop on the Zoom and record the podcast with you to help reduce the feeling of madness a little bit.
You are welcome, my friend.
So if you would like to leave a nice comment for us, it's buymeacoffee.com/the climate alarm.
Yeah. And I suppose that sort of feeling of madness leads quite nicely into our first climate story, because a climate scientist, in response to the record temperatures set in September of this year, called it gobsmackingly bananas. So it's not just
very scientific language, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not just the people that are going mad, it's the climate's going mad as well. So I suppose it's not a new story for us to talk about a record-breaking month of temperatures. But what's unusual...
It seems to be every month these days though, doesn't it?
Yeah, and what's unusual with this September is that it didn't just beat the previous record. It absolutely smashed it. So this record, September, was half a degree warmer than the previous record. And the entire month of September was 1.8 degrees Celsius warmer than pre-industrial levels. So obviously the Paris Agreement target that we're aiming for is 1.5 degrees. And this month was well above that target and above that threshold. And so this is kind of as a result of human caused climate change, but then also something that we mentioned a few months ago on the podcast, the fact that the planet is now experiencing El Nino. So we had the cooling effect of La Nina for the last 3 years, where the ocean stored more heat, but now that has flipped and we're going to see a very, very hot year at least ahead of us while we're experiencing El Nino, and that's part of the reason why we've had such a crazy hot September.
So El Nino, it takes place in the ocean, right? It's where the water is warming up, and then that's affecting the climate. Is that right?
Yeah, so there's La Nina, which is where it's the Pacific Ocean, and that's a phenomenon where the ocean basically stores more heat, so it absorbs more heat, so that has a cooling effect. But then El Nino is where basically the ocean starts releasing more heat or not absorbing as much, and that leads the atmosphere to being warmer. So it generally leads to a couple of tenths of a degree extra warming when we're experiencing El Nino, and that's what's playing out at the moment. Yeah.
And then how you kind of see that manifest is like through like what we saw over the last few months. It's like here in Ireland, it was raining constantly, and then over in Europe, it was like extremely hot.
Yeah, exactly. And we're only really seeing apparently the start of the El Nino impacts in the last
quite
month,
scary.
in the last month or two.
Yeah.
It is quite scary. Yeah.
Well, the hottest year on record was 2016, which was an El Nino year, and it looks pretty safe to say that 2023 is going to surpass that.
Wow.
And one of the big noticeable things about the September record was that they're described as the most anomalous global temperatures ever recorded. So what that means is that it's a record, but it's also the highest daily temperature anomalies. So that it's the biggest departure from the norm that's ever been observed on a daily basis in September.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So
and
it is.
El Nino won't peak until later this year.
Yeah, exactly. So it is. I think when you take a step back from it, obviously it's absolutely crazy and like nothing that we've ever seen. And then if you think about it a bit more and how it's 1.8 degrees above average for a month, this is just going to be an average September by the standards of the rest of our lives.
Wow.
Because if the climate's at 1.5 degrees on average and it's going to be there and go well beyond it, then 1.8 degrees is nothing, Some months will be a bit over 1.5, some months will be a bit under 1.5. So yeah, that is the other sort of angle on it.
And the temperature anomalies then bring weather anomalies. So we saw in Spain, and this incredible hailstorm in Spain destroyed in the area of Valencia, destroyed about 43 million worth of crops.
Wow.
Yeah, like some farmers' harvests were just totally wiped out because the size of the hailstones were so big that it just destroyed the crops in the fields that were just about to be harvested. So we're going to see more of that kind of weather anomaly also affecting how we live as well.
Yeah. And I think the thing about it is the sort of rapid change, the rapid shift in temperature, that it's not this incremental thing that we've just seen this huge leap that's kind of taken everyone by surprise. And we have to kind of hope that it's just, mainly El Nino and that we'll see a cooler year, a slightly cooler year again.
When you say it's taken people by surprise, like obviously you don't mean like we didn't expect the temperatures to rise. You're saying like that when scientists were warning that the temperatures were going to rise, they were actually being conservative in their warning. Is that what you mean?
I think you've seen lots of climate scientists absolutely taken off guard by how rapid the change has been. Like if you see the charts of temperature month by month, like September of this year is just way out there, way off the charts. And so that's what's taking people by surprise is how rapid the change has, how just totally unprecedented this month has been.
Have
and
we
then
had
also,
any? Oh,
sorry, go ahead, Ciara.
Have we had any responses from our leaders about this?
No, I think it got. I think it got
What
very.
leaders?
I think it got.
Yes, we're here talking about it, Ciara.
Wow. A huge rise in temperatures in September and a huge rise in Anna's ego as well, it seems.
No, I'm just kidding. Please take that out.
I know, that's good. Leave it in. But sorry, what was I saying? Yeah, I mean, there's been very little coverage of it, I think. And where there is coverage, it's not talking about how significant it is or how alarming it is. And I suppose then just to look briefly at October, that extreme heat carried on in Spain. So there were record new October temperatures set for mainland Spain of 38.2 degrees in Spain in October. And if you're listening to this either on the Friday or the Saturday we put it out. It's due to be up to 24 degrees in Dublin this Saturday. A grand summer's day in the middle of autumn.
I know, and like people keep going, oh, we're going to have good weather at the weekend. I go, oh, I wish I could agree with that.
Do you know what, Anna? I actually feel so much lately. Like, I am really affected by the weather, and the summer has been so bad. And I keep going, oh, well, if we, like that line of like, well, if we're going to get bad effects, we might as well be able to enjoy them. And then that is making me feel even worse about myself, because I'm like, that's like a really bad thing to say. Because
no, I don't.
Like,
I don't think it is. I don't think it is a bad thing to say, because what else can you do? Do you know what I mean? Like, that's the way it is, and it's going to be bad, and there's going to be loads of things that you cannot enjoy because of it, and there are going to be loads of, storms and things like that. So yeah, if you do get a hot day in October, I say try and forget what that means and just enjoy that day. Because that's what's lying ahead of us. That's the way it's going to be. So we might as well try
it's
to
sort of
enjoy
like
it.
the lockdown of climate change.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the way loads of people
Like, when is this going to end?
But also, but let's enjoy it.
And let's look on the bright side. At least it means we won't be burning fossil fuels to stay warm.
Oh, there we
on
go.
Saturday.
There you go.
Except my mother, who, if she's listening, never turns the heat off. But then she feels the cold, so that's okay.
Yeah. All right. Well,
so yes,
we'll
all be out sunbathing on Saturday and feeling happy for the day.
Yeah. So Ciara, you were asking about leaders earlier, and we're seeing some unbelievable leadership or lack thereof in the UK at the moment, Anna.
Oh yeah, I was given out for swearing on last week's episode, so I have to really be careful now when I start talking about the Tories.
Also, not given out to by us, just to be fair.
No,
we're not censoring you, Anna.
Certain listeners who might be related to me. But anyway, so just watching what's going on, what's unfolding in the UK this week with the Tory conference, which is possibly the most surreal set of speeches I have ever seen. I mean, George Orwell could not have written them. But apart from that, the decisions that they're making, they have decided to, I mean, if you step back from it, even under the Tories, the UK has been a leader actually in climate change, in fighting climate change, and has had some really good policies in place, even under Boris Johnson. But now Rishi Sunak has decided that they're going to just row back on it because they think it will make them more popular with the electorate. They have given the go-ahead to the Rosebank oil field off the coast of Shetland, which is the UK's largest untapped oil field. Contains about 300 million barrels of oil. So they've decided to allow that to be developed, which is, as we know, just unmitigated disaster and not even necessary for their energy security or anything. It's just pure greed. And then in one of the more bizarre twists, Rishi Sunak has declared that he's ended the war on drivers. Were you guys aware of the war on drivers?
No.
And he's come up with a lovely little pun for that, saying, I'm slamming the brakes on the war on motorists. It's as simple as that. So he's attacking harebrained schemes, his words and the Sun's words, like low traffic neighbourhoods and 20 mile per hour zones. He says these have been forced on Britain's cash-strapped drivers.
Yeah, no, it's just unbelievable. Like, there's people talking about the 15-minute city as well, and that, because there was a whole conspiracy theory around the 15-minute cities
are trying to aggressively restrict drivers.
Yeah, so the idea but not only that, the idea with 15-minute cities is that all your basic needs are accessible within a 15-minute walk. Brilliant, amazing. Like, who's not on for that? And then these sort of conspiracy theorists said, they're trying to control us, they're trying to lock us into it 15 minutes of where we live. And now the Tories are like talking about the 15-minute city like we're going to rally against local authorities trying to bring in this 15-minute city thing, and really just playing up to the conspiracy theorist thing. And it's just like, obviously from the climate perspective, it's so dangerous. But even things like that 20 mile per hour zone, getting rid of that is one of the most. There's so much evidence on how many lives that saves.
Yeah, the pedestrians don't.
Having 20 miles per hour rather than 30, like it's massive. And that's just literally like saying, oh yeah, we're ending the war on drivers. Probably will kill a few more pedestrians. Like there's a good amount of scientific evidence to back that up. But and then the stuff they're coming out with about trans people, and trans rights. It's just like it's as you said, it's
they
like
are
Orwellian.
embracing
They're just
all of the far right populist tropes and they don't care. I mean, and there was even one of them made a speech this week claiming that Labour are the elitists. The Labour Party are the elitists, and the Tories are standing up for the little people.
Oh my goodness!
And you're kind of like, okay, sorry, we've been watching you in power for the last 11 years. We know that's not true. So I actually think it will backfire on them, but it's just an example of how you can just take reality and distort it and shamelessly lie.
For sure.
And it's not even, and it's backwards leadership. So it's, and I know we've had this conversation here before, but this is all about the election. It's because Labour almost won a seat off them in London, but there was controversy about the low emission zone. So they're thinking that this is the way we're going to win the election. So it's all about the elections coming up. And I know we've talked about this here, but this is what we need to watch out for here. Will some of our populist parties embrace similar themes coming up to the election, and how do we work through that?
Yeah. Yeah, and I suppose just before we move on from that, like, I think it's pretty much debunked as a climate myth now. People would say, oh, governments aren't going to take action until it's right in front of our faces and until it's really clear. I think it's really clear that's not the case. Governments
They're still not going to take action.
Aren't going to take action. That it's so obvious now. The summer we've seen, the extreme weather, and it's just actually, seeing the Tories doubling down on oil and gas exploration,
going backwards,
doubling down on climate denial, and I think, as you say, Anna, that's something we also need to watch out for here.
We do, especially when people start. I mean, because you've got the carbon tax coming up now, and some debate about should that be increased or not. You saw here Dublin City Council this week. The councillors voted against restoring the local property tax, which has a direct impact on council services. And there are reasons, I'm not going to get into the debate about it because there is a genuine debate about it, but property tax, when most people can't afford properties anymore, and it would have cost something like a tenner a month for people, or it was very little anyway. But we're going to see more of that here, and we need to be able to sort through what actually makes sense. And there are going to be some tough decisions that'll have to be made.
Yeah. Actually, one of the things, just touching on that talk, I can't remember what that guy's name was that was going on about the 15-minute city. Do you know what his name was? Either of you?
Where?
The politician.
No.
He was saying that they were a bad thing. Oh. Anyway, just watching him, I was just watching.
Was it Rishi Sunak?
No.
It was someone interviewed on Sky.
Oh, okay.
I should know, but I don't. So apologies, everybody. But he just kept saying, they were having the argument about whether or not the 15-minute city was a good thing. And to me, obviously, I just don't see any disadvantage to it. And you're looking at this guy saying, like, how is he barefaced lying, going out and just saying, like, trying to turn this into, they're trying to trap you in your 15-minute city and all of that kind of thing. And looking at it, and it's really disheartening. And you're like, he just kept spouting the same line over and over in refrain to the other guy who was having like a logical argument. And that thing of like, what do you do when you come up and you see that? And you're not even the person in that discussion, but you're watching on people just spout lies. And you kind of are aware that, inevitably some people are soaking up that information and taking it as truth. And they're going to go on and have that discussion. How do you actually like stop yourself from disengaging in intelligent conversation around that? Because I think there's parts, maybe not everybody's going to soak up that story the way that was he an MP was giving it out? But people are going to take certain bits of facts. People that
Yeah.
are like, you know, in your life and you know to be an intelligent person. But because that just gets repeated, you know, that kind of, that truth gets soaked up by the public, and then eventually you're going to hear somebody you know give out an element of that information, and then you're suddenly like, oh my god, you're an idiot, because you're looking at them thinking that they're saying what that other person, you know, you're taking it that they've taken the whole truth from that person. And it's that whole, how do you stop, I don't have an answer, but it's how do you stop from disengaging in that conversation? Because it's really like, when I watched that, I was like, oh my god, they've literally taken something that is so, like, such a beautiful idea for a community and turned it into something terrible. It's like, how do you not throw your hands up and just walk away from the whole thing altogether?
And the challenge is that something like the 15-minute city, it becomes a catchphrase. And what the extreme right are very good at doing is taking catchphrases like that and simplifying them. And so all of a sudden, like, you know, people who haven't thought about it before, they hear this 15-minute city and they associate it with, you're trapped within 15 minutes of your house. And they're using the COVID quarantine metaphor to, you know, to make that sound like a bad thing. And I think one of the challenges is people on the left tend to go, or people who are, you know, pro climate change, climate action, they tend to be, oh no, it's more complicated than that. And then you lose the audience, whereas they're just taking slogans and twisting them. So I think, Ciara, I think the only thing you can do is wherever you can, try to say, well, no, that's not actually what it means, or it's more complicated than that. And 15-minute cities are a good thing.
Yeah. I think it's just, acknowledging that it sometimes is like, oh, for God's sake.
Yeah.
Absolutely agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's ridiculous.
That's my summary of the climate crisis. Oh, for God's sake.
That's not a bad summary.
You heard it here first.
Yeah.
So what's our third story?
So yeah, the last story we're looking at is a report that came out from the Irish Fiscal Advisory Council, looking at the potential costs to public finances associated with different aspects of climate change. So this is a report looking at a range of ways that government revenue is basically government revenue and expenditure is potentially going to be affected by climate change. And I think myself and Anna both saw this separately, and I think we probably had similar reactions to it. So they're talking about things like, if emission targets are met, then tax revenues will be reduced because of taxes on emission heavy activities like driving cars, things like that. They also said the government will have to spend a lot of money on supports for the green transition and to meet its target. And then it also mentioned things like that there are non-compliance costs, so that if Ireland doesn't meet its climate targets, that there will be fines every year. And then it also just kind of at the end mentions that, extreme weather events are becoming more frequent, and that'll probably cost a bit of money as well. So basically what they were saying was the government needs to acknowledge this and start planning for it now, because it knows these changes are coming, which I agree with. But there are quite a lot of things, or I think it's in general, it's possibly approach I don't overly agree with. Anna, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, I was listening to this during the week and looking at the report, and I had similar reactions to you. I mean, I think the Advisory Council is a budgetary watchdog, and they were looking at basically what are the costs going to be. So they weren't, so it was, I think, in a way, a narrow enough remit. And they were looking at the tax costs in particular, and how taxes will fall because people won't be paying as much road tax or car tax, etc. And because they won't be paying as much duty on oil and gas and so on. So that's fine, and that's one aspect. But they didn't look at the cost of not taking action or the benefits from taking action. Now, they did have a Twitter thread, as you mentioned, Darragh, that kind of went through it. But, number 7 of 8 tweets does say the costs will be large, but there will be benefits. And to name a few, greater energy security, better air quality, health benefits. I mean, those are pretty major benefits. The health benefits alone, I mean, we've seen Irish Doctors for the Environment have been talking about this. The health cost today of our air quality is massive. So the health benefits alone would be very valuable to the public and to the economy and to society. So I really think it's a one-sided way of looking at it. It's all about cost without looking at benefit, and even to say that like we need to spend a lot of money to get people to do the green transition, like on retrofitting and so on. That's true, but that should be seen as an investment rather than a spend.
Yeah. I like what you said there, Anna, about they have quite a narrow remit, and they're essentially doing what they're supposed to do. But yeah, I think, as you said, the cost of not taking action, and maybe in the medium and even longer term than they were forecasting, is huge. As you say, the financial benefits of taking action, particularly the health benefits, lots of other things like that. But then also, like, as I was looking through the report, I just feel that obviously they have their remit, but like with everything, it needs to be grounded in the climate science. It needs to be grounded in that kind of reality.
Bless you.
Oh, I'm just allergic to the IFAC's bullshit. No, so yeah, it needs to be grounded in that reality. And some of the stuff that they had said about extreme weather events, they said, given the unpredictable nature of extreme weather events, quantifying the risks to revenue from physical risks is extremely uncertain. And I've seen people write before about how, when you're looking at risk, if you look at risk from an insurance perspective, you look at what are the worst case scenarios and you sort of build back from there. And that has never happened with climate change.
But yeah, in insurance, you look at two elements, and you look at the likelihood and the impact if it happened. So if it's low likelihood but incredibly high impact, you still have to plan for it,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
vice versa,
exactly.
So.
But but I think the thing with climate change is that if the really bad extreme weather events don't happen in the next 10 years, they will happen in the next 20 or the next 30. Like, it's very, very unlikely that we get away with it forever,
No, we've been very lucky so far.
Yeah, exactly. And so they said stuff like there could be additional costs arising from the state having to provide supports to respond to more frequent and more adverse extreme weather events. I think, that could is very generous. There will be. And then they say when these events occur, the costs associated with them could be in the region of $500 million per event. But they don't have any sort of forecast or projections on how many of these events are going to be. And then it says, limiting these risks could require further adaptation costs beyond the $100 million per annum allocated for flood defences in the National Development Plan. It's like,
no kidding.
So
relocating most of Cork City will probably be expensive, I reckon.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. When we look at houses and places that are going to be below the flood line, that kind of thing, for me, it just seems like I get that they have a narrow remit focusing on the financial aspect, but they are not taking in enough of the climate science to actually base their findings on. Would be the way.
Can I ask,
would see it.
Was there a conclusion that they came to in this report?
Yes.
Am I right in understanding that their conclusion is that we should steer away from climate adaptation spending?
No.
Their conclusion, and they were very clear about this when they were being interviewed during the week, their conclusion was plan. The government needs to be planning for this. I think the risk, though, coming back to what we were just saying about what's happening in the UK, I think the risk is that this could give certain parties an opportunity to say it's going to be too expensive. We can't afford to do this.
Let's repeat a line and just keep repeating that line and stop the argument or stop the discussion happening.
Yeah, we can't afford to do this. That's the risk. And it is a big cost. There's no doubt about that. But it's just the cost of not doing it is so much greater.
Yeah, and like I think that's maybe the thing that annoys me so much is like seeing September, and seeing how hot September is.
Yeah.
That it's posing, like, you hear that phrase, like the climate change poses an existential threat to humanity and society. And you're saying, yeah, it's an existential threat. Like that's not
Yeah, it's like
hyperbole.
that's existence.
That's not
That's existence.
exaggeration.
That's,
and then
everything.
it's saying it's going to cost a bit of money. And and it's just like, it's like, what are we doing? What are we doing that we're like, why money should not be anywhere near the top of the considerations when we're taking this action. It's very incongruent to me.
But so we're going to lose 2.5 billion in today's money by 2030 per year. Remind me again how much the oil companies are making?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
2.5 billion is probably a month's revenue for Shell. I mean, seriously.
Yeah, exactly.
In terms of public awareness, I mean, this report, obviously it's not reporting accurately and all of those things, but like...
Oh no, it is accurate. It's just,
no. But I mean,
limited.
it's not looking at through the whole. Like, it's not taking the holistic approach. It should be looking at kind of the societal effects. But in terms of the everyday man out there like me, like, does this report really make a difference? Like, I didn't hear about it until you guys sent it to me.
And the other thing is, Ciara, like, does it make a difference to the government? Probably not.
Yeah.
Will they do much with it? Probably not. I think it's just down there. It's good. It's really good that the Irish Fiscal Advisory Council came out and said the government needs to start planning for this now. That's hopefully something that campaigners, that opposition TDs can use to say, listen, this isn't just like some hippies saying, whatever, we want to protect this. It's like, oh, there's actual economists who are saying it as well.
Yeah.
The poor old hippies. I've noticed a lot of people are always like, I'm not a hippie. It's like, who cares? I'm with you, hippies. That's what I want to conclude about this story.
And then before we go, any other stories that we didn't get a chance to cover?
Well, Ciara was asking about leadership earlier, and we're seeing some this week from an unusual quarter. Well, actually, it's not that unusual, but we may be a bit wary of it. But the Pope has come out very strongly again and is urging the rich world to make profound changes to tackle the climate crisis. Maybe we should have him talk to the Irish Fiscal Advisory Council. But the Pope actually has been quite a leader on this and has made some very strong statements about it. And so it's good to see. I think he still has some credibility somewhere. So I think it's good to see that he is coming out and being very strong about it, and also really positioning it in a climate justice point of view.
Yeah. I'd love to actually
interview him.
I'd love to interview him. We should get him and Danny Healy-Rae on in the same episode, and Danny Healy-Rae would be talking about how only God controls the weather, and then he could throw that over to the Pope and then see what the Pope would say.
But the Pope, it's a papal exhortation was published, and he's also really saying to governments coming up to COP28 that this should be a turning point, get on with it. And he defended climate protesters, which is good to see as well, because they need defending these days because they're being locked up all over the place.
Yeah.
Good job, Pope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the other bit of great climate leadership this week, I thought, was Dr. Gianluca Grimalda. Who works for the Kiel Institute and has been doing some climate research in the Solomon Islands, and was there for 6 months and was planning to slow travel for 2 months back to Germany. The Kiel Institute for World Economy, who he works with, told him this week if he wasn't back at his desk on Monday, he would no longer have a job to return to. So essentially telling him he had to fly home. And he
very enlightened of them.
And he objected on ethical grounds, saying that he can't justify flying. He will save a couple of tons of emissions by not flying. And so it looks at the moment.
And the Kiel Institute is facing a lot of backlash on this. So a lot of leading academics have weighed in to support him, and so we'll see how it goes. But I mean, I just, I thought fair play to him. Like, He had a tweet up the other day that said, "Many people say it's crazy to lose my job, not to take a plane. But I say it's crazy to go on with business as usual, as if this planet was unbounded."
I think what I really liked about that story, like, you know, because if you're thinking about, I'll admit to a degree, I actually thought, oh, Jesus, would he just get on the plane? But then actually I read what he was, like, he was there for months, and like he talks about how he had to go and meet with tribes there 2 or 3 times. Like he was trying to learn from the people in the region about, you know, how climate change was affecting them. And he really had to work hard to gain their trust. And like he had been kidnapped, and it's not like he was just over there sitting in an office. He was like really, so you can understand why he would be so, I suppose, steadfast in his decision. And I think that's important to mention, because there definitely will be people like me who'll be like, I'll just get on the plane and keep your job.
And like I assume that he had a plan for coming back and that he was supposed to be back at a certain time. And also, could he not work remotely while he's travelling? I mean, I don't get why he has to be at his desk.
Yeah. I'm not sure what the story of being a cargo ship, but either ways, I think what you said, Ciara, about other people find it is quite confronting. You know, I think I saw someone say on Twitter about that a lot of the backlash is coming from, you know, like other academics who are climate researchers and still fly, and that it's really holding a mirror up to them. And that's where a lot of the backlash is coming from, which I think in the climate space is really, really interesting. Because, you know, if you are a climate scientist and you are your job is essentially saying things are an emergency, but then you're continuing to fly and you're continuing to support business as usual, then that's really, really confronting to see someone like this put their job and their livelihood at stake for sticking to their principles. So and that's, you know, that's what's good about what he's doing, is that it really forces people to look at it and and think about it.
Yeah, good job,
Gianluca Grimalda.
Yeah, thank you, Anna.
It's not a very German name.
That Donegal accent really helps you.
It does, doesn't it?
Cool.
All right. Is that it for this week from us?
That's it, honey.
I think so.
Okay. So before we go, any actions or events coming up that we would like to let our listeners know about?
Well, I would like to plug the Irish Film Institute is showing the movie How to Blow Up a Pipeline. So I don't know if you guys have seen that. So it's next Tuesday, the 10th of October at 6:30. They're going to show the movie. And then afterwards, there's going to be a panel discussion, a provocative panel discussion, really asking the question, should we be blowing up pipelines? And it's going to be chaired by myself.
Woo!
But with some really good guests who are going to tease out those questions and see. I think it should be a good discussion. So
you're going to play devil's advocate, be like, no, let's leave them alone. We need more.
I'm going to be the pacifist. I'm going to be defending the pipelines. Yeah.
Very good. Yeah, I'm hoping to make it myself.
Good.
Like
it's a good movie.
Good evening. Yeah, I haven't seen it yet.
Good. Well, save it.
Also, for anyone in the Kilkenny area, particularly teachers, on the 14th of October, there is a Creativity in a Changing Climate event for teachers at all levels to learn ways to engage and respond to climate and biodiversity crisis in creative ways. And it is being facilitated by Lisa Fingleton, who we all...
your favourite, Darragh.
Yeah.
Girl.
Who we all saw at the Climate Psychology Conference. It's on the 14th of October in Kilkenny County Council exhibition space from 10:30 to 3:30, and you can register on creativity.oide.ie.
We'll put that in the show notes for you, Darragh.
Absolutely great. Thank you.
And if it's Lisa Fingleton doing it, you know it's going to be upbeat,
full of
inspiring,
energy,
and full of positive energy.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't promise the same for How to Blow Up a Pipeline.
So I want to give a plug to Something in the Water, a community arts weekend that's happening here in County Galway, in the capital of Headford. There's lots and lots of great activities going on. You can find them on Facebook where they've got the full program. But one of the things I love about it is that they are on the main street in the local town. There's lots of empty buildings, so they're having a workshop where people come together and actually talk about their vision for the main street and what kind of beautiful community hubs we could use these buildings to create. And it's a town that's full of art and music, so it's definitely worth a visit. If you're in the local kind of region, head on down and give it a shout. And there's lots of gigs and everything, so go to their Facebook page, you'll find all the information there.
Excellent. So they're going to turn Headford into a 15-minute village?
Yes. I mean, it actually technically already kind of is. We just need a brothel and...
Okay, Darragh, wrap it up.
Okay, that is it for this week. If you haven't already followed us on our socials, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Climate Alarm Clock, and on Twitter and Mastodon at The Climate Alarm. And if you do want to support the work we do, you can do that on buymeacoffee.com/The Climate Alarm. That's it for this week. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time with a very, very special guest, Pope Francis and Michael Healy-Rae. Until then, goodbye.
Bye.
Bye, guys. We have more integrity than that, Ciara.
I don't.